Morning to all of you. If that bed would just go away, I can do my morning greetings for all of you. I guess we're all kind of suffering some form of uh, dark morning hangover, if you would. I woke up this morning thinking it was 5:30 and it turned out to be 6:30. It's simply because there was no sunshine in the window there usually is, and I hope that somehow all of you will have a good day, good morning. I can't say sunshiny morning because honestly, when I looked out the window as I was setting up this morning, for some strange reason, I remember a phrase, dark and dreary. And I said, I think that comes from a poem of some sort. And I was right when I asked my wife Karen to look it up. It turns out to be the Rainy Day poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And just to mix things up and make things different this morning, let me just read a part of it for all of you who are wishing there's a better situation. It's now no longer GCQ that we could all go out. Here's the last phrase, last paragraph of that poem. Be still, sad heart, and cease repining. Behind the clouds, the sun is still shining. Thy fate is common fate of all. Into each life some rain must fall. Some days must be dark and dreary. But it's only dark and dreary because I think there's a low pressure area east of the Visayas or somewhere in that area. And well, we could use a lot of rain just to make sure that our dams are filled. But in any case, let's hope for the best. And I guess we can welcome a little rain nowadays after that long, hot summer. And I understand if this rains carry on this week, they might declare the summer season over and the rainy season has begun. And speaking of rainy season, let's get on with the program. Just so you know who we have on board or will be interviewing. We've invited Mr. Dindo Manhit, president of Stratbase ADR Institute. We regularly go to Dindo for a political science and political analysis. He'll also be talking about a study they did regarding China, regarding the 1 year after the Recto Reed Bank incident. We've invited our regular columnist, person we consult with, Marichu Villanueva, associate editor of the Philippine Star, to give us her view on how the last 3 months have been. We haven't had Ichu on board ever since the lockdown, and we will be inviting. I I have to check how Shailesh Baidwan, president of PayMaya and Voyager Innovations, to talk about PayMaya and online payment systems. And we will also be interviewing Hermogenes, Governor Mayor Hermogenes June Ebdane of Zambales, not particularly about Zambales, but more on this global uh, global movement regarding police reforms, police training, police procedures. So, in the meantime, let's go to the news. Today is June 11, 2020. It's a Thursday. And here are the headlines or the stories from the front page of the Philippine Star. Malacanang says there are enough safeguards against abuse in the proposed Anti-Terrorism Act. The palace also assures us that President Duterte will subject the measure to close scrutiny with the public interest in mind. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque noted that there are appropriate procedures to follow under the law in terms of arrest and detention of suspected terrorists. Roque also said that basic rights remain protected under the Constitution. The courts must be notified if law enforcers would interrogate a suspect without charges for several days. Meanwhile, the IBP, or Integrated Bar of the Philippines, continues to hope that Duterte would veto the unconstitutional provisions of the bill. IBP President Domingo Cayosa says the next battle is not in the Supreme Court but in Malacanang, as the president can veto the controversial measure. On the COVID-19 pandemic, President Duterte is awaiting the recommendations of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF, on whether we should retain the general community quarantine, GCQ, in Metro Manila, Cebu City, and several provinces. The task force was expected to meet yesterday to discuss the matter, and once they have a recommendation, they will present their proposed next steps to the president on Monday, says spokesperson Harry Roque. And then Malacanang has said that without revenue sources, there can be no stimulus package. But some members of the House of Representatives are urging President Duterte to call for a special session in both the upper and lower chambers to pass the legislation for the 1.3 trillion peso economic stimulus. Cagayan de Oro Representative Rufus Rodriguez says time is of the essence, and as such, the stimulus package must be approved immediately to provide aid to the Filipinos. Rodriguez explains they cannot afford to wait until August or September to give a go signal to the stimulus package, as he believes this financial aid must be available as soon as possible to boost the economy, which is hard hit by COVID-19. Finally, the Information and Communications Technology Department, or DICT, is poised to accelerate the deployment of free Wi-Fi hotspots. This is meant to address the need for connectivity as the education sector goes to the new normal where blended learning and distance learning will be key components of schooling. DICT Secretary Gregorio Honasan said they are working with the Education Department, Commission on Higher Education, as well as the state universities and colleges to install the Wi-Fi hotspots in relevant areas. Okay, so that's most of the news on the front on the front page of the Philippine Star. And for those of you who want to see what it looks like here, my friends who are out in the provinces and haven't seen the newspaper in a while, that's the picture there. Now, let's move on with our program and our scheduled interviews. We have with us Dindo Manhit, President, Stratbase ADR Institute. Dindo, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cito. Good morning to all your televiewers.
Okay, nice to see you after a long while, and I'm really eager to find out what your assessment is. It's nearly 3 months. If I'm not mistaken, by Friday, it would have been 90 days officially that the entire Metro Manila, NCR, and many parts of the country have been under quarantine. And I'd just like to get your assessment on how the government has handled this, what were the great points, what are the accomplishments, and what are the things that need to be fixed or changed.
Of course, we believe government made a good decision in locking us down here in Luzon in March 17. Uh, but as it dragged down to where we are now, still under GCQ, what people should remind itself of is that there were a lot of interventions with regards to stimulus package for the poor, for those who lost jobs or got furloughed. But one thing that I believe government lacked really was what is critical in addressing this pandemic. We have heard of a good program. They call it the Task Force T3, testing, uh, tracing, and treating. But it's, as I've said, nearly 90 days, but testing capacity has not gone up.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that the private sector now is helping, that even private sector hospitals and laboratories are now helping increase that capacity. My fear is that as we demand from a business side, from an economic side, to get back to at least slowly to this new normal of how we can get our economy moving again, I fear of a second wave that might be blamed on the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly we get locked down again. So that so-called V recovery might become a W recovery. That means our economic recovery goes up and down. So I believe government should really put more effort in this testing, tracing, and hope and treating. We have seen the numbers. It goes up, still manageable given we're over 100 million people. But there are a lot of health interventions. After that, we need to focus more on really how can we get our economy back, this economic recovery, and that entails not only government initiatives, because I think government financially is really getting challenged, but how can
Mm-hmm.
we help the private sector really recover from big conglomerates to small and medium scale enterprises? Is it tax breaks? Is it subsidies? And also to, from a different point of view, I'll put a governance side to it. These are
Yeah.
trillions or billions of pesos being mentioned. We have to make government more transparent and accountable in the way we're spending. We hear left and right reports of recipients not receiving, or even we've been hearing of for the past 4 years the success of conditional cash transfer, but suddenly there's no list of poor people in our country. So it makes you think, because if we can really do well or succeed in intervening in uplifting the poor, we need to know it's getting to the right people. Resources which are getting scarce is being spent and distributed properly. So a lot of challenges really, But one thing that I want to emphasize, because I saw that the government thought initially that they're here. It's a nature of President Duterte. I'm here. I'll save you. I'll fix everything. But really, we are slowly recovering, and we have survived the lockdown because of what I call whole of society approach. Not
Yeah.
only government will solve this problem. The private sector did a big part. We saw how they responded. We saw even civil society. We saw even the church reaching the poorest of the poor, working with barangay captains and the police, reaching the poorest of the poor, distributing vouchers, and a lot of things. So we have to be remind ourselves that if we will recover from this as a nation, it's not only government but all.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. You said whole of society approach. I read Alex Magno's column earlier, and he used the word quarantine fatigue. Uh, what are your thoughts on
Yes,
that? Because that's scary. It's scary because, like in
it
the
is.
United States, in Europe, when people just got fed up, they used the protest. I'm not saying they used it, but parang ganun na rin eh. Parang, okay, there's police
Parang
brutality.
pinakawalan.
There's ginamit na lang nilang dahilan para lumabas.
Yes. I hope it's true. No? There's, as you said, nearly 90 days. We moved from ECQ to GCQ. I counted 75 days. No?
Mhm.
Uh, it's really quarantine fatigue. And imagine the fear of people losing their job. Government, that's April data. 17% are unemployed.
Mhm.
What about 2 months after? It's now June. Then, what about the underemployed? That they are considered employed, but they might not be earning what is necessary for them to live a very decent life. So suddenly they might feel that we need to get out, we need to move. But in highly urbanized area like Metro Manila, given the density of the population, that continues to be a challenge. I think we saw that in the poorer communities during the lockdown. I was trying to imagine how in these poorer communities people can really practice social distancing because of the density of the population.
Mhm.
Now you also have that quarantine affecting the economic thinking of people. How can I go back and secure my job, my livelihood? I need to go out.
Dindo,
I need to go back to work. No? Especially a big driver of our economy is service sector. And,
okay,
and
are you
social distancing is affecting the service sector.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I am open to correction as long as it's done, nicely by people. But my impression is the government had a good plan at the start between March and April. The plan was, let's do quarantine so that there is no further spreading of the disease. The government hospitals can recover, ramp up their facilities, etc., and we can deal with this problem better. And they did that. The government really invested on the PhilHealth, on the public hospitals, quarantine facilities, etc. But after that goal was achieved, I get the sense that, or I actually wrote about it. I said, it seems that they've started making things up along the way because, like, I checked Google if this ECQ, MECQ, GCQ, MGCQ, and also all of that, if it's an international standard of doing quarantine, apparently it's only in the Philippines.
Yes.
So do you feel
Uh,
that this
as I said, I agree.
IATF is making things up as they go along the way?
I think there was a good idea with the lockdown. We needed to keep it from spreading. When we extended it, and used May 30. I remember IATF saying that May 30 is an important date because of we will have that capacity to test more. And they even said 30,000 tests a day. I think it took so much time to reach that level. And I believe, I still doubt if we are reaching that level. We could have done it as early as April. The testing, the tracing, even the quarantine facilities. But I think, as I've said, there was this initial mistake on the part of government that it's a nature also of leadership that they can do it alone. And they believe that. I think the strong performance of our president gave this delusion that the government was functioning well even before this lockdown. So in this lockdown, the government will function well. But as a political scientist, if I will wear my hat as a governance professor, I spent 26 years teaching that in a university. Institutions were not really reformed during this government because the focus was always about the president, his popularity, and his support base. Problem with that kind of nature of governance, when it's tested in a crisis, suddenly you realize, do I have the right people? Do I
Mm.
have are the institutions working? Then you get initially local government officials doing their own because they felt that the national government is lacking and wanted to support. How did the government react? They even said the national government should prevail instead of getting the local government say thank you for helping us. Then comes
Mhm.
the private sector. The private sector has been maligned since last year as oligarchs,
Mm.
as one that has caused problems to the Filipino people. But we forgot who create the jobs, who
Mhm.
invest. That's what I've said. That's why I kept bringing that idea of whole of society. Government approached this differently. That because they built it around the persona of our own president. But this is overwhelming. No leader was prepared to deal with this global health emergency. And when
Okay.
our own institutions, our own Department of Health, lacks the capacity in terms of laboratory, then we wanted to approach it from a purely execution point of view. We have good people, retired military people, but is it really their area of competence? So they are there doing their job, but we could have used more health experts along the way. And also, accepting the capacity that we cannot just keep people locked down if we're not testing them. I wrote about it in I think in the business world about this issue of testing as early as April because I was reading about it in foreign journals and foreign media about the need for to test to trace
Mhm.
because you cannot keep people locked down if you don't know if who are sick. So we were guessing at the time, and now I think the government is reaching that capacity. But as I've said, as you have quoted Alex Magno, the quarantine fatigue. How do we move from here? Really? How can
Yeah.
we slowly move to
Yeah.
this new normal,
Yeah.
whatever this normal is?
Yeah, that's a question that I have been trying to find answers to because I understand government's concern. I believe that they have reached paranoia to the point that they have become inutile. They would rather just quarantine everybody, keep the status quo, and
Yes.
but we can only bear this so much, and soon enough people will start breaking the law, people will start speaking out, and it's going to get nastier and nastier. What should government do now?
I think they really need to build their capacity to test and to trace and really limit the lockdown to either if there's a spike in certain communities, like at the barangay level. But we need really to find a way to get our people back to doing maybe 50% of what they used to do before the lockdown. Slowly
Okay.
get them back to their livelihood. Slowly provide means of transportation, especially to the poor. Because at the end of the day, we had this round table, virtual round table, middle part of May, and we invited pharmaceutical companies. Uh, a lot of them said that vaccine will not be around until second half of next year. And these are representative offices here
Mm.
of those that are developing vaccines in Europe and in the US. So we cannot wait for those vaccines to arrive. Of course, the government says China vaccines might be around. I don't know who would be injected with China vaccines because of question of quality. I'd rather wait for the vaccine next year from respectable, because we have not heard of these laboratories from China. But so we cannot wait till that vaccine. And and I believe with proper health protocols, the private sector can slowly bring back work, and and we cannot keep our people with the fear of they will be arrested. They will be, so, because what are we offering them at the end of the day? Continuous subsidy, continuous. I fear with the subsidy, you're creating a culture of patronage.
Mm.
And that's very dangerous because these people don't realize actually it's their taxes that is subsidizing them. They should stop thanking government because at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money that is subsidizing them. Not only because they're poor,
You, you
they have
know,
not paid taxes, no, as
you,
indirect
you know,
taxpayers.
you've raised something that I have been sitting on for some time. My impression is, and I'm sorry, and I'm saying it's just an impression. Might be wrong, or maybe I'm just being overly suspicious of any politician for that matter. But the way all of this has been handled, giving out SAP subsidies, and then the way it's being communicated, the government information dissemination is being done on a daily basis, being done in the lunchtime hour that is traditionally the hour of newscast for
Yeah.
real news outlets, broadcast stations. I'm reminded of the accusations against Donald Trump in an election year. They accused Donald
Yeah.
Trump of saying, he's doing this on a daily basis to keep his face in front of the American public, the voters, to push up his recall, etc. Do, have you ever wondered or suspected that maybe some people in the administration is intentionally using all of this so that they can actually win as senators in 2022? Because some of them really want to run
Yeah.
for senator.
Yeah. I think there is always that thing behind this. But me also, I believe maybe it's also time for the media networks to slowly go back to your regular programming. Because if you've noticed, it's becoming a repetition of news the whole
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
And are we really getting enough? Are we really getting anything new? Because it's the message of things are happening. But is it really happening to our people who would like to go back to their work? Because that's the reality of life now. So that was right, March, April, but as we transition to May, I believe, and now with GCQ, I think we should slowly go back to regular programming and just wait for government maybe to say, and we don't need to carry them live. When I say live, that the whole time that they're speaking, interviewing people, because at the end of the day, you get lost in what they're really saying. What I've done in our institute is that we monitor what they're saying, and we capture it in a few pages of notes that we share with our supporters in our institute. You don't need those long coverage. At the end of the day, Secretary Roque is only the official person to speak, but we see live broadcast from PCO also. So I think, so for clarity purposes also, no, I think networks should realize who should we be covering, because it's confusing afterwards.
Okay.
Or it's just simply repetition, or keeping government there. So I mean, I'm just following what you're saying. So I just
No,
hope it's not being intentional on their part, because it's very dangerous during this kind of pandemic crisis that you put politics into media and communication.
yeah. In any case, okay. To the other topic, your office. If you don't mind, I'm down to a couple of minutes. But if you don't mind, what you guys did a summary debunking China's new normal a year after the Reed Bank incident. You did a paper, I think. What does that talk about?
Uh, a year ago, exactly a year, not a few days back, we heard about this news a year ago, June 12th, about a group of fishermen left to die near the
Hmm.
Reed Bank. But officially, June 9 was the incident. And it
Okay.
took some days for the media, the public to realize that this was happening in West Philippine Sea. We just felt that we need to raise and remind people of what happened. Because imagine during this pandemic, that's why we call it debunking China's new normal. They caused this pandemic. This virus came from Wuhan, China.
Mm-hmm.
December, that's why it's called COVID-19. I want to remind people, COVID-19, because as early as December 2019, there were reports already. But what transpired? Not only in the Philippines, but all over the world. We all know how the Chinese travel since economic growth has been sustained. Every
Mm-hmm.
Lunar New Year, Chinese families travel around the country, around the world. And in
Mm-hmm.
the Philippines, because of this renewed friendship, you had Chinese tourists visiting the Philippines as early as our Sinulog Festival. That's why our DOH kept on saying the first two COVID-19 patients were foreign nationals. They didn't like to use the word Chinese nationals because we
Mm-hmm.
even had planes coming from Wuhan. But of course, it's a global health emergency. You don't like to blame China for it, but that lack of transparency, they have to be made accountable, not only by the Philippines, but the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was, they even used this time, when the world was focused with the health emergency, to continue with their aggression in the West Philippine Sea and in the South China Sea,
Mm-hmm.
the East Sea of, I think, Japan, the Taiwan Straits, even claiming that their territory reaches Indonesia, Vietnam. They had an incident last February also. So all these things, we believe that we need to remind our country. So we gather different scholars, experts, not only in security or defense, but even environmental scientists, to talk about this continuous affront to the Filipino people because they're crossing our territorial integrity, our maritime rights are being set aside.
Okay,
We need
Dindo,
to remind
we're
people.
okay. We're out of time, but quick question: would you support the return of the U.S. Navy in Subic?
Me, I've always supported the Visiting Forces Agreement and the EDCA, Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. What does it mean? They don't need to stay here. We call it rotational bases,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, not only the US, but we have that partnership also with Australia. So that
Yeah.
Subic is a possible Australia and US project.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I would support that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll make sure that you get back on the program in the coming days when we get the time. We just kind of have quite a lot on our plate today. But anyway, thank you very much because I think the most important point you've made is that we need to go to pinpoint quarantine, just like the anti-terrorist strategy in the Middle East, where
Yes.
the United States targets and pinpoints the enemy and takes care and eliminates the threat. So I think that's very important. Thank you very much, Dindo, and please stay safe. Stay strong, stay healthy, and God bless you, bro.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's
Thank you for the
okay. That's Dindo Manhit of the Stratbase ADR Institute. Next up, we have our colleague from the Philippine Star, Marichu Villanueva. Boss, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Cito. Long time no see, no here also.
I love the orange. You look great. Great background. How have you been during the quarantine?
You
Your
know, I
face,
also,
your face said it all.
yes, because we, at first, had a work from home for the
Hmm.
first 2 weeks of the quarantine because I had very serious cough and flu. I mean, cough and colds. And,
Okay.
those were the symptoms of COVID. So just to save or to protect the rest of my colleagues at the start, I had to work from home. And and it took a while before my coughs and cold got better. So, but after that, I resumed back my work at the desk at the Star.
Hmm.
And really, under this new normal, we have a totally different setup because we are all turned into virtually paranoid because every time we touch something or we have to do something, we have to clean our hands, wash our hands, use
Hmm.
hand sanitizers or alcohol, and wear the mask. And for people like me with asthma problem, it really gets really difficult to breathe through
Hmm.
masks. And I have to find the best kind of mask to suit me as an asthmatic person.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So at least you seem to be faring well, or are you already suffering from quarantine fatigue?
that the first person who used that term was yesterday Task Force Shield General Guillermo Elisar when he disclosed that many of his policemen are now suffering from quarantine burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And if the people are suffering from sort of quarantine fatigue, the, our own policemen are suffering from burnout, according to General Elisar. So it's a combination of physical and emotional and psychological things uh, coming in together, unfortunately, and creating this burnout. And the sad thing is that some persons or some people cannot cope with things like depression. And I felt that kind of sort of depression when I had my work from home. I was a little bit emotional on certain things, and really I can empathize with those people having that kind of depression moods or some mood swings.
Yeah.
These are the things aside from health. Uh, our we must also be cautious about our own psychological and mental fitness during these times of being forced to work at home, stay at home, especially the most vulnerable ones that were identified by the government, the senior citizens and the young ones. So we have seen this across the world. We have seen features of children being let out gradually from their homes, but there are also some incidents about uh, people committing suicide. I think there are also some cases here in the Philippines about suicides,
Yeah.
people in quarantine for a long time. See,
Okay, now the question, Chu, is how do you assess the situation? Because on Monday, I believe, in fact, I'm getting confused with Malacanang already because what I heard was that the IATF was supposed to meet yesterday, and then they
yes.
were supposed to give their recommendations to the president today, and now the news
Mhm.
is saying it's on Monday. So I don't exactly know if and when the president is going to make an announcement, excuse me,
Yes.
regarding the status of Metro Manila or NCR as far as GCQ is concerned. And then you mentioned senior citizen. I'm a senior citizen, and I think a lot of senior citizens were really angry with the government's urong sulong, give withdraw policy for senior citizens, etc. What's your assessment on all of this?
By way of a joke first to you, Even coughing, you try to suppress your coughing because people suspect that you might. That's the new drama that we had to bear with. Uh, as you mentioned, the president, IATF has to postpone its meeting because the president right now is back to his home in Davao City
Mhm.
and bringing his cabinet members who are members of the interagency task force. The government has to bring them to Davao City, and not all of them can come. So they decided that the IIPF members will just hold their meetings in Manila, and when they finalize all the recommendations for the president's approval, then that will be the time they will go to Davao City. Or some of them will just have teleconferencing like we have now.
Mm.
And so there are a lot of things now on the table, and the president wants, according to presidential spokesman Harry Roque, the president first wants to have these things iron out, the kinks or whatever, consultations with those affected. And these are matters that touch on, especially on public transport and tourism and other aspects of the so-called um, medium term, I mean the medium community quarantines and so many queues. As on my only guide is to start off with the ECQ, enhanced
Mm.
community quarantine, which is the worst or the highest risk.
Mhm.
Then it downgrades to um, medium ECQ or MECQ. Then it goes
Modified
to,
ECQ. Yeah.
yeah, modified ECQ. When the risk is getting lower, it goes to the general community quarantine. And when it further, the risk is low, there is already a low risk, then it goes to the modified GCQ. Oh, teka, nagkamali na yata ako. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, that's why I
maraming queue,
said,
di ba?
yeah, that's why I said we'll end up barbecue. You know, no, but I'm being sarcastic about it because listening to you, Ichu, I'm wondering regarding the decision process and executive management of government because you were saying that the president wants to address so many proposals, so many suggestions. I mean, you've been in Malacanang. You covered Malacanang for the longest time, even during the time of my dad. And
Yeah.
I remember most of those presidents would say, bahala ka dyan. Ikaw ang Secretary of Tourism. Ikaw ang Secretary of Agriculture. Di gawin mo yung trabaho mo. Wag yung tinatambak sa amin.
Yes, that's the problem brought upon right now by the coronavirus disease. We should remember that President Duterte has adopted the policy of delegating all the responsibilities and authority to each and every of his cabinet members. However, there are certain things and policies, especially, that are overlapping or overreaching to the other departments. So they have to get together and iron out and synchronize all their actions and policies so that there will be a unified and there will not be any there will not be conflicting actions and policies. So they have to iron out these things among themselves. So this the problem that we are now saying. I mean, actually, this not this should not be seen as a problem, but as an improvement of the system, because right now, in the past, when there is no coronavirus yet,
Mhm.
each cabinet members are acting on their own, and when there is public uproar on it, then there's the this goes against the President Duterte. And as you mentioned a while ago, when one department announced about the senior citizen being allowed, and this goes back again, not being allowed to go out. So the president does not want these things to come out without first coming up with clear-cut policy.
Mm.
So they even come up with a single spokesperson for the IATF, and they decided to remember this past cabinet secretary Carlo Nograles, and
Yeah.
then they have spokesman Harry Roque, and then you have PCOO Secretary Martin Ardanar. So they divided the job. It's now only Roque who can speak for the president as well as the IATF, and PCO's Secretary Mandanar will take care of the government agencies, various government agencies. So Carlo Nograles, being the vice of the co-chairperson, Secretary Duque, and the IATF, just has been quiet for now. So there's no problem, as you said, of people trying to angle for the 2022 elections. Cito.
Okay. Well, sorry, but I know that some of them have plans and are already working out their plans for
This
2022.
early, yes.
This early, but it's not early because normally this is when you start planning and plotting, and the early bird gets the vote. Sabi nga nila, no? In
Yes.
any case, just a couple of questions. Now, what do you think should be the situation? Kami ni Dindo Manhit, ang position namin, as far as quarantine is concerned, you quarantine where there is confirmed illness or where there is an outbreak. And I remember Secretary Carlito Galvez saying, if there are two cases in a condominium building, we lock down that building. If there are two cases in a sitio or a barangay, that street or that sitio can be locked down. But now, even Alex Magno mentioned in his column today that we are suffering from quarantine fatigue. What would you recommend to the president regarding the standard to apply for a quarantine?
You know, I might take it as a credit, Cito, just for once. When we had the second extension of the quarantine, I wrote in my article, I reminded the president and the cabinet about their first guideline of the IATF, in which it clearly defined it would be a calibrated lockdown when one or two persons get sick with COVID in barangay, that barangay will be put into lockdown. Then, if one or two barangays have COVID, high incidence of COVID, then those two barangays will qualify. I mean, will the city within which it is located will be put on lockdown. And if that city and several cities, one or two cities, are having high COVID cases, the entire region, as in the case of NCR, will be put on lockdown. So I reminded them, whatever happened to that original IATF, when you have those previous guidelines and you are ignoring it and putting the entire Luzon provinces under quarantine, and the rest of the countries followed, the rest of the provinces followed suit, and then the president has to come out with a statement, hey, governors and mayors, we are not yet in the federal government. We are not still under a federal system. Only the national government can impose lockdowns. So what's the purpose of having these policy guidelines in black and white when you yourselves are not following it? So what's I hope the president and the cabinet, the IATF, have read my piece, and I think they now doing this recalibrated thing and following their own guidelines, going back to the previous guidelines. And now they even have the buildings, as Secretary Galvez has put it, if there are one or two persons in that building, they close down the building. So very micro specific, and they even joke about it. They're now using granular approach, and I have to look up for the dictionary. What is that granular? The meaning of granular. So it's describing specific. They are now going to specific, and he used the word precision, military precision, parang missile guided intelligent weapon. You use the military term of precision missiles like that. So,
okay. In any case, Ichu, I hope maybe you have to rewrite that for Friday, so that for tomorrow, because because we're not against the government. I think, if anything, one thing the president cannot say about media in the Philippines is that we did not cooperate. I think we all cooperated very well, humbly and professionally.
And we are also the frontliners.
we're also frontliners. And my biggest fear is this: because of quarantine fatigue, the worst thing that will happen is when the horses run loose, breaks away from the corral. As an analogy, you are going to have to find everybody, and there will be that second wave that Dindo was saying. Baka
Yes.
mamaya masisi na naman ang business o private sector, eh kinulong natin ng masyadong matagal at sobra. In any case, thank you, Ichu. You look great.
Thank
And
you. Same to you.
we hope we will come back again. We will make you kulit and invite you on the program as we always did before
Thank
COVID-19.
you.
You stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and God bless you, Ichu.
Thank you, Cito. Stay COVID-free too also.
Okay, that's Marichu Villanueva, Associate Editor of the Philippine Star. Well, she's my boss, one of the few people who gets to bully me and tell me, Beltran, you're late again on your column submission. In any case, we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we continue with the program, and we hope that you'll stay because we will have Shailesh Baidwan of PayMaya and Governor June Ebdane. Shailesh will talk to us about PayMaya, and Governor Ebdane I am inviting because we want to talk more about the police protocols, arrest, etc., and training of PNP personnel in the country. We'll be right back. Okay, you're back here on Agenda, and you are watching this via Signal TV channels 8 and 250, as well as the Facebook platform, One News PH, and of course on YouTube. And we thank you for watching the program. For those who share the program with their friends, please continue to share the Facebook site, and please continue to watch. And we thank all those who are sending us messages, because it gives me bearing, gives me an idea what topics you like to be discussed or what are the issues you are concerned with. I recently received email from individual who's asking for pointers regarding travel passes, etc. And we'll try to work on that either tomorrow or next week. In any case, a few weeks ago, I heard about PayMaya. And it was in the context of a friend who is part of our Bible study. And he said, Kuya Cito, I'm running into a wall regarding the school of my children, because I want to pay via PayMaya, because I don't want to have to travel from outside of Metro Manila to Metro Manila just to enroll my kids. So I just kind of wondered. I never realized that people could actually pay tuition fees via PayMaya. And I'm sorry, I'm completely ignorant. So maybe today I'll get an education from the president of PayMaya Philippines. Concurrently, he's also the president of Voyager Innovations, a firm specializing on digital marketing and banking technology. Let's bring in Shailesh Baidwan of PayMaya. I hope he's there. There we go.
Morning, Cito. Yes, very much
Good,
here.
good morning, Shailesh. Looking good. Where exactly are you from? Because I couldn't figure out. Is he Middle Eastern, Indian?
I am Indian. I was born in Delhi, educated pretty much in India, but I've lived a lot of my adult working life out of Singapore.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, I've been here in the Philippines right now in Makati talking to you.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because funny enough, or well, interestingly, I've also been listening a lot to another Indian from Chennai, and he by the name of Ravi Zacharias. I don't know if you've heard of the gentleman, but in any case, let's talk about your company, PayMaya. Can you give me a beginner's guide to PayMaya? Because I'm scared. I am one of
Okay.
those many Filipinos who are scared to use pay money, do money transactions electronically.
It's actually quite simple. Our job is to make people like yourself very, very comfortable. People who are not in the formal banking system, actually, who are going to try out financial services for the first time, to make it really easy and convenient for them to do that. So we have kind of three businesses. The first one you may be familiar with is our Smart Padla network of 30,000 sari stores where people can go and remit money to their loved ones. In fact, we have digitized that whole network, so you can actually walk in over there and pay or buy airtime load or pay your bills for electricity, water, and the likes of that. So that's the first point of contact for a lot of people to use digital services, where they're putting money on the table and seeing the load come onto their phone, or they're sending money. So that's one big part of our network. The second is our wallet. So if you have your own smartphone and you want to do the transactions yourself, then we have got the PayMaya wallet. Our job is to make it as easy and comfortable for you to do that. So all you need to do is, whether you have Android or iOS, download the app, the PayMaya app on your smartphone, open the app, do your registration, which basically requires you to enter a few fields like your name, date of birth, take a video of yourself so that we know you're a live human being, take a photograph of your ID and upload it. And as long as the ID is clear and your image match, our process at the back end, our machine learning AI, will match the two, and you're instantly ready. And you de facto have a bank account, because with that account now, you can go and put money in. You can, in fact, walk into one of our Smart Padla outlets, give them cash, and they will load that cash digitally into your PayMaya account. And then you can use that account to do what you want. You can send money to another PayMaya customer. You can send the money to someone's bank account. You can buy airtime load. You can buy online goods purchases. You can walk into a store with the PayMaya QR and use that. So that's what we do. So we make it easy and demystify for you to do digital services. And we make it instantaneous and quick.
How big or how small? I mean, both. Okay. What is the smallest transaction that someone can do through PayMaya, and what is the biggest transaction? Because I heard of this story of this gentleman, a Middle Eastern guy, who walked into a big condominium project, and he said, "I like the place here. Put it on my credit card," and flashed out a black credit card, and people were saying, is there such a thing as a black credit card? Now, with PayMaya, how small and how big are the biggest transactions?
So as for a small transaction, 1 peso. So you can send literally a peso. We can send it to each other right now, and you'll get it instantly. So you can do a transaction as small as that. And as far as the size of the transaction is concerned, it again depends on what we are solving for largely is people who are underbanked or unbanked. Right.
Okay.
So what we are looking for is people who can pay electricity bill, buy airtime load, be able to order things online, get food, use the QR to buy some essentials and the likes of that. So the transaction sizes can actually be reasonably good, but typically the wallet size is in a couple of 100,000 pesos. But there are certain use cases, for example, payroll. So we do talk to companies where companies like BPOs push their employee salary into the PayMaya account. So for those, we have higher limit because the whole salary needs to go in, and people then need to use that for all use cases, like you mentioned, whether they need to pay fees or other use cases. So there we can go in with a higher limit. So depending on customer and use case, we are able to manage what limits we give on the PayMaya account.
So like my staff sent me some notes here that some LGUs have tapped PayMaya to distribute financial aid to senior citizens. I think they're referring to the city of Manila. Now, what happens is the city of Manila goes to a bank or to a counter, because I mean we're talking millions there if we're talking about allocation for senior citizens. When it's a big payroll or that sort of thing, we have to go to a bank, correct?
So for that, that's where the beauty of the interoperable system comes in. And I think what the BSP has done is laid the rails over the last few years. So things like PesoNet, InstaPay, which help banks and players like us connect with the banks. So in the case of, let's take SSS. So we did one of the big disbursements for SSS as part of the SAP and other disbursements right now. We disburse billions of peso. So what you do in that case is SSS has the money sitting in their bank account. Now from there, we need to push it to all the SSS holders. So we use PesoNet, which is the switch to move the money from the bank account into the SSS bank account into the individual PayMaya wallets. So if you and I are SSS customers, we will get our disbursement of, let's say, 8,000 peso each, which we will work with SSS to automatically push through. All they need to do is give us the names and mobile numbers and a few other data points of all the people they want to send it to. Those people download the PayMaya wallet, which takes a couple of seconds, and then we push the money into their account. Once they have the money in the account, what we are seeing is what people do is they start paying the electricity bill, water bills, buying airtime, doing all those activities. And if they need cash, then they can go to our Smart Padla network, any of our agents, and take the cash out of the digital wallet from the agent. So that's how that system works. The beauty is it is connected with the banking system. And at the last mile, we have connected it with things like our Smart Padla agent. So you have a full...
Yeah, go ahead. You have a full, you were saying?
End-to-end ecosystem that works for us. And that's one of the assets that we have in PayMaya. Because what we realized during this COVID period especially is that it's not just digital. Right? We would love for everything to be digital, but it's not all fully digital as yet. So you need the digital components, but also the physical component of having these 30,000 agents where people can go in cash and do transactions is equally important. So it is the end-to-end ecosystem that we are very pleased and proud about. I think that sets us up well in the market.
Okay, a lot of people are now contemplating, trying to understand and evaluate electronic transactions, particularly because of COVID-19 and the quarantine. Now, for the business owners and individuals, what are the advantages of enrolling in such a program?
I think we have been serving large businesses for a period of time. So one of the lines of business that we have is where we go to large merchants, whether it's e-commerce, whether it is quick service restaurants, gasoline, so everyday use categories, where we enable them to accept all forms of payments, not just the PayMaya QR, but Visa, MasterCard, JCB, WeChat, BankNet. That's what we do. So we help you to be able to accept all forms of payments. Right, so that's something we've been doing. Now, what's interesting is during this period, we realized that micro SMEs also need digital payments because customers, whether you were a provider of fresh produce, of fresh seafood in a fisherman's market, you realize that suddenly there was an ability to deliver your goods. And customers couldn't come to the market, so you had to deliver goods. But you also needed payments for that. So we actually, during this period, launched a new product of ours, PayMaya Negotio, which helps people like that seafood seller to download that app, within 24 to 48 hours, start receiving payments from your, for example, PayMaya wallet, so that when you send the fresh fish over, you can also receive payment for that into your wallet. So we've seen the MSME category go. Another interesting use case was professionals, doctors. So doctors are doing teleconsult because patients didn't want to go into the physical locations, and these are non-critical, but they needed to be paid. So we, in fact, did a very interesting pilot with Makati Medical, whereby 150 doctors became our PayMaya Negotio merchants so that they could do a teleconsult and get paid by the patient on their PayMaya Negotio. So we are seeing this change of sectors and people who were typically very cash heavy and couldn't really get into the digital ecosystem for receiving payments, doing that. And also because MSMEs earlier couldn't distribute their goods and services. Now that's changed too during this period, where we know home delivery, if it's a physical good, that infrastructure has come up in a big way. And of course, for services like doctors, that can be done through broadband and teleconsultation. And then it's a question of making the payment done and closed out.
Okay, but what about glitches or hitches? I mean, yesterday I heard a story of someone ordering a Bible and ended up with a hair dryer. Another one ordered tuna and got a goldfish. What happens when the customer pays for something and then what he or she gets is not the right stuff? What about refunds or getting your money back?
So it depends on so if you look at any of the large service providers, if you do not receive the goods that you ordered, you pretty much contact them directly and they will reverse the payment for you. And there it's more of an issue of large logistics that they're handling, right? So if you are a large e-commerce provider, you're doing thousands and thousands of distribution and packages and all the rest. If it's smaller MSME, they tend to be more specialists. So if you're an Instagram seller, or if you're someone even a big company like Jollibee, which is now doing conversational commerce, whereby if you're using their chatbot or Facebook Messenger, you can actually order your favorite Jollibee item. Over there, because they run more specialized products and a more well-defined range of products, the issue around non-delivery or wrong delivery is usually very, very low. But if there is an issue, the best way is to contact the person from whom you bought the good or service, and you will find that they will reverse the transaction out, and instantly the credit goes back into your PayMaya account once they initiate the reversal. So that can come back to account pretty much instantly.
What about the surge right now? Most of the health people are talking about a second wave, but in terms of electronic transactions, everyone's saying we're getting overwhelmed by all of the demand and transition from actual cash to cashless transaction. What's PayMaya experiencing?
So our job is to enable, and we are seeing a couple of things have happened. Consumers, I'm not sure about you, Cito, but me personally, I have become a little more hesitant in handling cash. just with the concern of the surface transmission, and there's so much of unknowns around what we are dealing with over here. And we
Yeah,
saw the same.
a lot of people now are talking about buying UV boxes to put their cash and stuff in. I go around with alcohol, and I just realized talking to you, it's like I'm being stupid. I might as well just go to PayMaya and try to do most of the transactions online.
Absolutely. And what we saw was, so because of this, consumers are changing their behavior. So first of all, even in places that were open during this ECQ, which was supermarkets and pharmacies, even there we saw a surge in contactless digital payments. So people preferred even over there when they were walking in to use a contactless or digital payment, PayMaya, etc. Then the second thing that's happened is people have been forced to use online services. People have for the first time ordered groceries online. People for the first time have ordered food online. And they're realizing that it's actually a lot more convenient to do that online and use something like PayMaya to make that payment. You don't have to fiddle for change. You don't have to come in contact with Surface. You don't have to exchange, money and settle all that. It's faster, convenient, safer. So, and then the third thing that's happened is, as we spoke about, the government doing some of the social amelioration program disbursements. So people, for the first time, downloaded PayMaya wallet, received cash in, and realized, hey, I can pay my electricity bill, I can pay my water bill, I can buy airtime, and do all that using my wallet. So it is easy, it's convenient, it's intuitive. So we are seeing this fundamental shift from consumers coming in, and now businesses are embracing that more and more. And they themselves are realizing, actually, during the ECQ period, some of them struggle to move the cash out of their physical location and put it into their bank branches. Our own Smart Padla agents struggle to do that. So the more electronic payments you have, easier, faster, safer, even for the merchants to be able to settle and use that. So yes, it is a transition that's happening. It was a transition that was already happening. I think the COVID crisis has accelerated that even further.
Okay, well, Shailesh, please do stay in touch and let us know if there are further lectures for cashless transactions and innovations, because I guess, honestly, we are a bit behind, and I think it's one of the few silver linings that COVID-19 came with. It forced us to go digital and admit our digital ignorance, particularly in my case. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Please stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and God bless you, Shailesh.
Cito, stay safe too. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, that's Mr. Shailesh Baidwan of PayMaya, president of PayMaya, and also of wait.
Voyager Innovations.
Oh, Voyager Innovation. Sorry. It's been a slow day for me, Shailesh. Thank you very much. Okay, that's Shailesh Baidwan. And like I said, hey, I started the program. I told you guys, I'm like an hour behind, and blame it because there is no sun. Well, hey, good news. The sun is coming out. In any case, we will now go for, I don't know, I have to check if we are going. Okay, we are now going to go to our next guest, Governor June Ebdane of the province of Zambales. Okay, I don't know if he's there already. Governor, are you there? Looks like we are having a delay in our connection as well. We'll find out. But in any case, that's an interesting conversation with our guests. With Dindo Manhit, at least we seem to be in the same page. We are banking on what Secretary Carlito Galvez mentioned earlier. Okay, there we go. There we have Governor June Ebdane. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Cito. How are you?
Getting forgetful in my age.
Do you
Mukhang-
see it at that? No.
mukhang maaraw dyan. Mukhang maaraw dyan sa inyo, ah.
Sa ngayon, maaraw. For the last few days, umulan.
Okay, kasi dito naman ngayon medyo makulimlim na. In any case, Governor, the reason I called you, I hope everything is okay in Zambales. Wala naman kami nababalitaang bad news dyan.
Yeah, actually, we have again attained a zero case COVID-19.
Okay.
So, nakokontrol natin dito, nagtatrabaho naman lahat.
Okay, thank you for that. Ngayon, the reason na tinawagan namin kayo, I needed someone's experience and view on siguro naman napapanood niyo yung nangyayari globally. There has been a global movement because of what happened to George Floyd regarding the police arrest that led to his death. And biglang naglabasa na yung mga maraming cases and issues about policing in the United States, in France, etc. Now, in the Philippines, recently we've had several issues. We've had the Debonking issue, the judgment on Kian de Los Santos, na yung tatlo were found guilty of murder, and then the issue in BGC, na kung saan napagsisigawan yung mga foreigner ng ilang police women. Now, the first question, I guess, is having been a former chief PNP, sir, what is your assessment of the level of training for police officers? Kasi may batang nagtanong sa akin kahapon, itong mga millennials, ibang klase, tsaka itong mga centennial inaral nila how many training hours ang ginagawa ng Amerikanong police. And it turns out na mas mataas lang ng by 50 hours kesa sa training ng barbero. So, sabi nila, paano naman mangyayari yan? But in any case, in the Philippines, what is your experience and understanding of training?
Well, first, Sito, siguro dapat malaman ng mga kababayan natin na bago ka pumasok na pulis ngayon ay kailangan baccalaureate degree holder ka. Kailangan college graduate. So, in turn, madali silang matuto sa mga training courses na nilalagay natin. Pero siguro bago tayo doon sa discussion natin, nabanggit mo yung sa Floyd, yung sa US,
Yes, sir.
nabulog. Ngayon na dito sa atin actually yung practice dito sa Pilipinas, according to the books na tsaka courses na ginagawa, ang isang pulis na while in the performance of duty committed a misdemeanor or maybe something to the level of serious physical injuries or homicide, automatically we place him under investigation and file the case immediately para right then and there magkaroon ng kalinawan kung ano talaga nangyari. That's the practice actually. Ngayon, ang natin dito, Sito, we cannot compare the training that they have or we have, pero meron tayong common denominator, and that is the basic, the police basic training. If you look at our training courses, it starts with the basic course, official man o non-officer, and then we go to yung specialization, the promotional courses, and other courses to prepare actually the officer or the senior enlisted man or senior non-commissioned officer to their proper to their proper level, doon sa level natin. At yung natin dito ay nagkakatalo ito doon sa sa the way we handle the training. Kaya nga ang natin ito, meron tayong mga human resource and doctors development or yung mga training centers. And
Okay.
it's good, but I would say that we are at par with other countries. In fact, magagaling yung investigators natin. Nga lang, kung minsan, sumusobra. Ang ano lang natin ito, kung minsan nakakalimutan natin na nakakalimutan ng iba na when you are in position, there is what we call the authority and comes with it the responsibility. But in turn, you are accountable for all your actions. Yun po yung maraming at saka pero marami naman pong pinagdadaanan.
Okay, now, in terms of training, Governor, may nakapagsabi sa akin, and hindi ko nasasabihin dahil baka kabatch mo pa sa PMA, no? sinabi sa akin, if there is anything lacking in the training of both military and police, is that the emphasis is in the law enforcement military training, but very, very little on the civics or in terms of spirituality, in terms of integrity, values. Yun ang sabi niya sa akin. Sabi niya, baka isang SEM lang ang values, the rest is all training and officiating.
Well, in a sense, Sito, totoo yan. Dahil lalo kami na 70s na eh. 71 ako eh. At yung mga pinagdaanan namin doon, ganun talaga yung parang yung scheme ng yung mode ng training. Pero as we learned our lessons, inayos natin itong training program. Isinama na rin yung community relations, yung et cetera. And inaano na rin namin dahil may kanya-kanya kasing unang-una pagka pumasok yung isang magpupulis, ang tanong diyan is bakit siya magpupulis? Ano ang gusto niya talaga? Is it for employment? Is it for service to people? And what are his long-term objectives? Kaya nga inaano natin ito, nagkakaroon naman ng and in the process while you go through the rank, meron naman tayong mga occupational specialty or police occupational courses. Some will undergo administration courses, may pupunta sa logistics, may pupunta sa operations, may pupunta sa intel. And all officers are expected to go through the mills. Dapat madaanan nila lahat yan. Just like sabi ko nga sa liderato ngayon, why don't we emulate Thailand where all newly graduate officers should initially be assigned as investigators and then go out and find out to where they belong. Meron yung mga merong talagang rito, meron tayong tinatawag na kung minsan nagkukulan tayo, yung immersion, yung kasi tayo mga social obligations. Mawalang galang na sa AFP, Pero ito kasi yung tinatawag ng immersion which our civil agencies have adopted, yung tinatawag na living with the people, eating with the people, and sleeping with the people. Nung araw, yung mga NPA, hindi nila alam yan. Ang problema, nung lumabas si Lieutenant Victor Corpus, having come from the Army Special Forces, itinuro niya yung barangay immersion. Kaya, at na rin yung mga natin, importante kasi itong yung mabuhay tayo na nakikita natin yung mga nasa kanayunan. Walang problema sa kagaya natin na galing sa probinsya, galing sa kahirapan, kasi naiintindihan natin yung sitwasyon nila.
Yes, sir. Ngayon, matanong ko lang, sir, what about militarization? Kasi nakausap ko nga si Lieutenant General Guillermo Elizar, nakiusap ako, sir, parang awa mo na, pwede ba bumalik na lang kayo sa blues, doon sa ating standard blue uniform ng PNP? Kasi pag nakikita kayo ng mga tao na naka-fatigue kayo, naka-battle fatigue, there's just too many memories of the past. and napapagkamalang sundalo. And in the US and in Western countries, yun yung nire-raise na issue na dati naman maayos ang relationship ng mga pulis sa citizenry, pero after 9/11 there was a move to weaponize the police, militarize their facilities or their equipment. Anong reaction nyo sa ganong view?
Sa tingin ko dito, ang problema rito sa liderato Nung kung titingnan ito sa yung enforcement ng checkpoint operations, nakita ko nga, sabi ko, bakit naka-camouflage tapos may sukbit na Armalite? So I immediately called my provincial director. Sabi ko, wag yung mga nag-check, sabi ko, wag magdala ng mahaba. Tama na kako yung maiksi. At saka, as much possible, you wear your office uniform. Kasi kahit ako, retired na ako, pag nakakita ko nga, ano ito, military, police, o special unit, or even CAFGO. Ang ano diyan, ang dapat attitude natin is, dapat ilagay natin yung sarili natin doon sa mga tao na kung kanino tayo makasalimuha. And tandaan natin na bago tayo makagawa ng action na radical, shall we say, radical act against our personnel, make sure that we follow the same regulations. Bago tayo magtanggal sa pwesto, bago tayo magsuspende, sumunod muna tayo doon sa pinag-uutos. Pag sinabing social distancing, sundin natin yun. Walang rito. Walang libre rito. Whether you are a private or a general. Yan ang mali.
Gob, papasundan ko na yan ng bato-bato sa langit, tamaan, wag magagalit.
Sige.
Hindi kasi, no, I admire you for saying that because it's correct that there should be no exemptions and naging issue na nga yan dahil yung isang police general nabigyan ng slap on the wrist. Pero yung 71-year-old na jeepney driver na nagpro-protesta, isang linggo yata sa kulungan. In any case, I admire you for saying that openly, Governor. Panghuli na lang, any message for our viewers or your constituents? Kasi alam ko naman na hindi kayo nabibigyan ng sapat na airtime tungkol sa mga pangyari sa Zambales. In any case, you might have a message for your constituents, Governor.
Maraming salamat dito. In fact, pambihira talaga ito at nagpapasalamat ako. At ang pakiusap ko lang po sa ating mga kababayan na kung merong mga nagkakamali sa mga dating, hindi lang sa pulis, hindi lang sa kapulisan, kundi pati sa mga yung membro ng bureaucracy, yung mga empleyado natin. Kung may nakikita kayong mali, kung may nakikita kayong pag-aabuso, isumbong nyo kaagad. Ako, mas gusto ko yung marami akong natatanggap na reklamo kaysa sa wala. Dahil ibig sabihin, pag wala nang nagre-reklamo sa bayan mula sa kanayunan, may problema tayo. Ang mas probable nito, hindi na sila naniniwala sa atin. Pero kung sakali naman na maraming pumupunta sa atin, dito naman sa grupo natin na nasa gobyerno, tingnan natin, kausapin natin sila. At marami pa tayong pangailangan. At kung pwede, Cito, tungkol naman dito sa punta ko sa COVID-19,
Yes, sir.
Sa Zambales, in a way, successful tayo rito. Zero case tayo ngayon. I cannot say that we are cleared of the virus. Kasi ginagawa lang natin ay na-isolate natin yung mga tao na infected and we treat them in the hospital. Kaya kayo naman po, sa ating mga kababayan, makiugnayan po tayo, makipagtulungan tayo, hindi yung para tayo nakawala sa kural dahil tayo rin ang mahirapan. pag nagkaroon ng second wave, mawalang galang na sa ating mga Pangulo, pero inamin na rin naman niya na hirap ang gobyerno. At dito nga sa Zambales, sabi ko sa kanila, bankrupt na tayo, hindi na natin kayang magbigay ng tulong pag nagkaroon pa ng isa pang problema. Mabuti na lang at meron tayong mga itinayo ditong mga programa, kagaya ng pagtatanim ng gulay bawat household, at itong plinano namin ng mga undertakings even before the COVID-19 pandemic. At
Okay.
tingnan po natin lahat ito. At yung ako'y nagpapasalamat din, papabot ko sa DSWD yung kasi nagpadala sila ng mga frozen fish, kararating lang po ngayong araw na ito. At kay Senator Bongo, meron po siyang ipapadala ng mga relief goods at kukunin po natin yan ngayon sa Maynila. At tayo naman po ay nagpapasalamat sa lahat. Masaya naman po yung mga tao natin. Kailangan lang po pagtulungan natin.
Okay. Thank you very much, Governor. At sana po mabisita namin ang iyong lalawigan at makapangisda ng mga malalaking marlin daw dun sa dulo ng inyong lugar. Thank you very much. Please stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and God bless you, sir.
Maraming salamat, Cito, at mabuhay po tayo lahat.
Okay, that's Governor June Hermogenes Ebdane, former PNP chief and current Zambales governor. And we have gone beyond our time limit, and we just want to thank all our guests and thank all of our viewers for joining us this morning. God bless all of you, and please stay hopeful, stay positive, and please include us in your prayers. Good day.